We cannot compromise our nation's security by allowing visitors entry when their own governments are unable or unwilling to provide the information we need to vet them responsibly, or when those governments actively support terrorism.
A revised presidential order will limit immigration and visitors from 6 majority Muslim countries. Dale Carpenter, professor of constitutional law at SMU. So this goes into effect in 10 days. Now, the argument for the first order was we have to do this immediately because otherwise they'll all be tipped off and all the terrorists will rush over here. Why a 10-day delay on this one?
Well, I think the rollout on the first version of this order was so poor and so widely criticized, including by Republicans, that there was a definite attempt this time to make sure that the I's had been dotted and the T's had been crossed as much as possible.
When you read the first one and you read the second one as an attorney, was the first one as poorly written as we're told?
It had clearly been rushed out. Not a lot of thought was given to the way that it was written. It swept in so many people in its broad strokes that I think even those in the administration recognized that it was poorly done.
Do you have any doubt there will be legal challenge? At least lawsuits will be filed against this, probably many of them across the country.
Unquestionably, the states of Washington and Minnesota are looking at renewing their challenges. The ACLU has already promised a challenge. There will be challenges.
This time, however, this version, much better written, actually written by real honest-to-gosh lawyers instead of politicians, and written by with the advice and consent of the agencies who will have to implement it. Last time, those agencies, like the poor guys at the airport, taken completely by surprise.
That's right. Now the Department of Homeland Security and the Justice Department have been involved, so presumably this is a tighter order, it's a narrower order. That doesn't mean that it's good policy, it doesn't even mean that it's going to survive constitutional review, but it has a better standing than the earlier version did.
Version 1 was, among many other things, was criticized using now President Trump's words as candidate Trump against him, in which he referred to a ban on all Muslims entering this country for a period of time. Could his words during the campaign come back to bite this executive order in the courts?
Those words are still there. I mean, they are written on the page of history and they're not going to be erased. And to the extent courts look at that kind of information about motive and intent, they are still very much there. And there's enough of the traces of the old order in the new order that you could bring those arguments back in this case.
Now, there has to be a legal justification for it, and the legal justification is there on paper, that these are countries, and as the Attorney General just said, these are countries that don't do an adequate job, and in some cases, these are countries that are state supporters of terrorism, therefore we must be careful.
Well, it's an interesting argument because the Department of Homeland Security has said that barring people on the basis of their nationality is really not a good way to fight terrorism. It may be, in fact, counterproductive. And if you were going to ban people based on where they came from, you'd probably include countries like Egypt and Saudi Arabia, and not necessarily these 6. And of course, Iraq has now been taken off the list. No Americans have been killed in terrorist attacks by immigrants from any of these 6 countries. And your chances as an American of being killed in a terrorist attack by an immigrant are substantially lower than being struck by lightning.
And yet this is something the president during the campaign promised to do, and as he has said, he's a guy who keeps his promises. So by golly, this is going to get signed into as an executive order.
And I think that's exactly right. I think the president is keeping a campaign promise, and we'll see if that holds up in court. There are going to be arguments that this again constitutes a kind of a crypto-Muslim ban, and for the reasons that the previous order were problematic, this order may be as well. We'll see. The president has his national security justification. We'll see if that is persuasive to courts.
All right. Undoubtedly, it'll be dragged out by the courts. They can't decide. Well, they did decide the first one quickly, so we'll see how quickly this moves as well. Thanks very much.
My pleasure.
Appreciate it.